Mitchell has his head up, takes the feet. Oh, my! Donovan! Get that weak stuff out of here!
Okay, so you can look at so many areas where the Cavs are underperforming, but I think the biggest thing that they're underperforming is on the defensive side of the ball, and that's what's most concerning because that's what this team holds, kind of like hangs its hat on, and it's expected that this team's not going to be nearly as good without Donovan Mitchell, but kind of the whole reason why the Donovan Mitchell trade made sense was, hey, Donovan Mitchell can elevate an offense that needs juice, and we can cover up for him on defense because we have two of the best defensive bigs in the league, and those two bigs have been healthy during this most recent terrible stretch, and the defense has been absolutely awful. They've been 20th since the beginning of March in defensive rating.
They're 29th in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So it's just like, this is not what anyone signed up for. And I think we give JB some criticism for his offense, how uncreative some of the things are, how Darius doesn't move off ball, how Donovan doesn't move off ball, all this stuff. But if the defense is not there, then it's like, what is this team? This team has no identity. This is just a bad team. And that's the worst part.
That the defense has been their identity literally for this entire era, like since 2021. Right. I'm going to be negative in a second, but to be fair, they did the last 2 weeks, they have faced some teams that pack one hell of a punch, and they've certainly felt that punch. Like, even when you play really bad defense, Denver shooting 63% from downtown. That's the best of any team in the NBA this year. It's not an excuse by any means, because they played bad defense. But they've definitely felt some high-powered offenses. The rebounding is something that a lot of people have been talking about. They're bottom 10 in offensive rebounding percentage, so keeping the opponent off of the offensive glass. They're bottom 10 since March. They're 17th since the All-Star break. On the season, they're 7th, so they're top 10 on the season, but clearly something has not been going right in that department. I think, I will be honest, I haven't been able to watch all of them like I normally would, like rewatch the possessions. To me, it feels like it's a little bit of the team not rebounding like we saw earlier in the season. And Mobley and Allen have had some games here or there where they're just not as active on the glass as you would want. But when you think of like the rest of the players, the backcourt, the wings, they're not rebounding as well. And I think Dean Wade impacts this more than you would like and more than you would think, probably.
I think it just comes down to especially this, not to like turn the whole season summarized into the last two games, but I feel like the defense in both games kind of embodies like all of the issues we've seen over this poor stretch from the team. Is like perimeter defense has just borderline been non-existent throughout this stretch. You're seeing a lot of people have laps in assignments. People are completely open. It's not even like they're just sagging off. It's almost like there's so much miscommunication in the defense that we're seeing like D'Angelo Russell basically go off, mostly because most of his shots were completely open. And then we were seeing something similar where most teams, when they see Paul George absolutely destroying them in a game, would be like, all right, let's just try to have anyone else try to beat us, which they only did on the second to last possession where Coffee like hit the game winning 3 or whatever. And it's just like, it's rinse and repeat with this team throughout this stretch. And it's almost like, I guess people want to argue that the point of attack defenders haven't necessarily been healthy during that stretch with Dean and Isaac, but this team had good stretches without them playing defense before. We can't put, if Dean and Isaac aren't there, then the defense won't be good. Because that alone is a terrible sign of a playoff team. If two role players don't play, then your entire defense plummets.
We all see how important Dean Wade is, but if you say, well, we can't win without Dean Wade, then it's like, well, then you weren't winning anything anyways. So one of the things that I think is really important that Corey brought up is like just a perimeter defense. It's just like one dribble and guys are like, it doesn't matter who the guy is, they're getting past their man. And I think this really shows up because in that stretch from December 15th to the break, the Cavs defense was really good even without Evan Mobley. And like, we know Donovan Mitchell was doing a whole lot, but he wasn't being, he was
playing good defense.
Right. He was playing good defense, but he wasn't like locking guys down. Like, he wasn't the sole reason. So like, when I think about the areas where this team struggles, which is the defensive rebounding, which I have since the All-Star break, they're 19th in defensive rebounding percentage. From December 15th to the All-Star break, they were first. They are not doing a good job of defending the rim, and I think that a lot of that comes from being out of position on those dribble drives, where the help isn't quite there fast enough, and there's no resistance at the point of attack. So opponents were shooting 60.7% at the rim from December 15th to the All-Star break, which was second in the league. Now the Cavs are 14th since the break, and opponent three-point percentage was seventh during that stretch when they were playing really well, and since the break, it's 28th. So what that really illustrates to me is that how this defense is just breaking down entirely off of any dribble penetration because the driving kicks are open, there's no rotation, there's no help, and when there is help, you're giving up offensive rebounds. So it's just, these are just the hallmarks of an awful defense, and like, it's not, well, we just need one player to fix everything. It's like, this team has just let bad habits build up over time, and now it's just like the dam is broken, and anyone, like the opponent's getting whatever they want whenever they want it.
Or just, I mean, you mentioned the miscommunications. It just seems like they're not on the same page anymore. They're not on a string. I think part of this comes down to, and I'm not going to single any individual player out necessarily. I don't think you can pin the blame on any one person, but when you look at Caris LeVert and Darius Garland playing a whole lot of minutes together, I feel like, just for me, this is my own personal like eye test. Whenever I see like a big defensive breakdown and like players have their hands up, like what just happened, 9 times out of 10, it's Caris LeVert or Darius Garland doing it. Like they're either ball watching, they lose track of their man. Caris LeVert was getting backdoor cut by Bol in that Phoenix game. George Niang was on Russell Westbrook for long stretches in the second half of the Clippers game, which I don't know what that was for. He wasn't even helping the way that you would expect. Like, okay, you can help off of Westbrook because he's not a 3-point threat, but he was like out there on Westbrook. It just, I don't know what the scheme is. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the players are as connected as they were before. And I think a lot of that comes down to the point of attack, like you've been mentioning. I think Caris LeVert is, oh boy, he's having one heck of a 2-week stretch here. He has been good at various points of the season. He's played some of the worst games he has ever played in a Cavs uniform. And again, I'm not trying to just blame it all on him. There's a lot of reasons they're struggling, but decision-making on both ends of the floor has been really bad. The defense has been really bad. Darius Garland's defense has been really bad this year, which sucks because last year he reached a point where again, nowhere near being like a good defender, but I would say he was a reasonably respectable defender. You didn't worry about him as much. He was a weakness, but he wasn't like this glaring like Trae Young level defender. I know Trae apparently has gotten a lot better at defense. People have said, I don't watch the Hawks very often, so I can't speak to that. But Darius is looking like old school Trae Young on defense right now. Darius at points, and same with LeVert, they just seem out of it. They just seem like, I mean, really watch them off ball sometimes, or even go back and watch, like, there's so many moments where I'm like, who are you guarding? Do you even know where your man is? Like, they're just so in their own head or something. And it's to the point where, like, Mobley and Allen haven't been great defensively either. I still wouldn't say they've been bad, but like, when Mobley and Allen are kind of like your super band-aids that cover up for all these things throughout the last 3 years, and you start exerting them over and over and over again, and then they go through a stretch where they're just not really playing that great defensively either, like, that's when you see the floodgates open, like you said. And again, if I'm trying to maintain positivity here, we know they can play defense. They were first last season. They're still top 5 this year because of that really good stretch. They were top 5 the year before that. So clearly these guys are capable of playing defense. As much as we say, hey, the playoffs are all about getting hot at the right time, seems like the Cavs could potentially be going cold at the wrong time, which would be very unfortunate. I want to shift gears.